My dad went into property late in life. He joined what was then Call-It Drive Estates in Johannesburg, and after 2 years he was asked to come and open up the commercial and industrial division for their company in Cape Town. And no sooner had he got to Cape Town than the company got into a bit of difficulty, and he realized that they were going to go into liquidation. So he had no alternative but to actually start our company.
Dudley was appointed as a director on his 25th birthday by his father.
I believe that our success is that we are very focused in what we do.
I think the fact that we specialize in industrial property is one aspect. We cover the ground totally, and we try and establish exactly what it is that a client needs.
When I bring brokers in, I make sure that they are focused in a specific area.
I've certainly found that there can be no question that specializing in something is a lot more lucrative, a lot better than being a sort of jack of all trades.
That's where they must concentrate, and that makes them successful, and it's also good for the company, and it also gives clients peace of mind that they've got an area specialist that can service them whenever they need us.
And the clients are obviously able to find what they need coming to one broker rather than going to several.
Dudley and his father started looking at a property in Montague Gardens.
We were asked by Safran to dispose of a 30-hectare site in Montague Gardens, on which was the SACD warehouse and container depot with some offices and some workshop space. And for some reason we couldn't find a buyer for this property, and my dad was dealing with it and he mentioned it to me, and I said to him, well, why don't we buy the property?
No one believed at that time that they would be able to subdivide the property and sell it off. We went, and Dudley will recall, from bank to bank, and eventually Cape Good Bank believed in Dudley and his father, and they gave them the seed money to start developing the property.
To get the finance through for the Montague Gardens venture was an art in itself, because it was quite a big loan for Good Bank in those days, and I had a battle to get it through. So when this deal came in, it was quite a big one, and it took quite a lot of persuasion, let's put it that way, to get it through. Because Montague Gardens then was not a recognised industrial area, and it was something pretty new.
In those days there was probably about half a dozen buildings, including Macro, in Montague Gardens, and it was considered a long way out of Cape Town.
Thereafter, they subdivided the property, and they believed that they would probably sell everything within the space of 5 to 6 years. However, within 2 years, I think between 70 and 80% of the property had already been sold, and thus I believe that was the beginning of Dudley's property empire.
I go back with Dudley and his company over 2 decades, and it's been a mutually beneficial association for all parties concerned.
And it went from father to son the way our own business did, Centurion Property. I eventually became the MD after my father, and Dudley has succeeded his father, so we're both second-generation businesses.
Annenberg, has been around for 40 years, and what that proves is that they do have the staying power to work through this business, through the good times and the bad times. And it takes a lot of courage, and it takes determination, and it takes staying power, and that's I think the core values of Annenberg.
We stand on the shoulders of the previous generation. This is what the great philosophers, Karl Popper. So our knowledge is on-growing. Each generation hopefully learns from the other.
Annenbergs, of course, have really proven themselves with bankers, all the bankers in Cape Town, as good, secure developers and good loan applicants for themselves to do the development of transaction and for the end buyers.
It's an absolute pleasure to work for Annenberg Property. It's an environment that you can go home and feel proud of being a part of.
There were many other agencies, property agencies on the market. A lot of them have all gone by the boards. They all come and they all go, but there's one or two that have remained steadfast, and Annenberg's is most certainly one of them, and most certainly, in my mind, one of the foremost, if not the foremost, in Cape Town at the moment.
We were impressed with the way that they operate and will most likely continue to operate. I think they provided Old Mutual and Old Mutual Property. OMP is the property asset manager for various Old Mutual funds. They provided us with a really efficient and effective service, and Dudley and his team were a team of people and a company that we could rely on.
Everything that I bought from Dudley has been on face value. Whatever he told me was right for me, I bought. I never looked at the building. I believed him.
But I think as a company, we've kept things simple. We've kept to the basics. You know, if a client needs something, we try to service them as quickly as possible, as efficient as possible.
It's a good working environment. Most of the guys that we work with are very knowledgeable in the industry.
Very nice group of people. It's really great to work for Dudley and for a company like Annenberg Property Group, and it's really special being part of a 40-year commemorative celebration.
Dudley and I started to develop a personal relationship, and and once you start to talk to people and you develop a personal relationship, you're no longer, how shall I say, talking to the Annenberg group or anything like that. Because, look, let's be quite honest. Who is the Annenberg group? It's Dudley.
He is a true entrepreneur. He's able to just identify an opportunity, a property opportunity, and take it forward.
How do I sum up Dudley? Funny, charismatic, very witty, dry sense of humor, which I find absolutely hysterical.
Well, I think it's just a good company, and he does the job right.
Our relationship has really been great, and Dudley's a very, very good client of the bank, and he's a good friend.
The nice thing about Dudley, he never sees an issue as a problem. It's always an opportunity, so that relationship is always there.
I'm working for Annenberg Properties for 30 years. I started 1982.
He's first and foremost very passionate about what he does. He's probably one of the first guys in office each day, probably one of the last to leave. And if your cell phone, if you receive an email on your phone, sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock, you can be sure it's Dudley, working the night away.
You can do a deal on a handshake, and that's very important for me.
The very first thing that impressed me was how direct Dudley could be and how quick he could sum up a situation and how quick he made up his mind. And that definitely I decided to make up my mind very quickly who to partner with because of his actions of that.
The other thing that I have learned from Dudley is that it takes a lot of determination to get deals off the ground. It takes determination and it takes patience to get property deals going. All of those are key strengths that Dudley brings to the party.
To date, Dudley is involved in something like 25 different property investment companies. He is highly successful, he's highly motivated, and the nice thing about Dudley Annenberg is that he is not scared to take with him numerous investors who have, over the years, been successful as a direct result of Dudley's vision.
He sort of looked after me all these years, and I'm very happy for him to be a director on my portfolio.
The challenges I enjoy personally in this business is refurbishing old buildings and giving them a new lease of life. I've done quite a number of these developments over the years for clients and for my own account. And I really enjoy that side of the market. Soho on Strand, I can only describe as a lemon to a lemonade. And I contacted Chris Bam, who's an architect who I've worked a lot with, and suggested to him that we look at converting this building or adding onto this building residential units.
We added 50 apartments on top of the offices, which was then sectionalized, and it was successfully sold off. Probably the main challenge was to add additional bulk on top of an existing building that wasn't designed for it necessarily. So there were structural obstacles that had to be overcome, and we had to, with the help of the engineers, the structural engineers, who in this case was Andrew Haken, we had to think outside the box in terms of doubling the size of the building on top of something that wasn't designed to carry the load. It basically transformed that building from, you know, something which was virtually obsolete and gave it a completely new lease on life.
What happened was we not only did we sell the apartments, but we also sold the offices. We were looking to hold on to the office space as a long-term investment, but the sectional title office market also took off at that stage, and we were getting people in the offices asking us rather to sell the space to them. So we did that, and it turned out to be the best property investment that we'd ever made, aside from Montague Gardens. The Claremont was a very interesting development. L.A. Parker from Food World owned the property and asked me to assist him in finding a buyer or another tenant for what was previously the OK Bazaar's outlet in Claremont. I could see that one could add 8 floors to that building. And I suggested to him that we put apartments on top of that building, and he came up with an even better suggestion.
I said to them, throw the building down, and they must have thought I'm crazy. And what was nice is those guys went back and they said, okay, we're going to do it. And they came back with something that looked far more workable in terms of how the building will come out and so on.
I was quite impressed with his thought process on it, although I must be honest, I was a little nervous about it in the beginning. And he then appointed us to pre-sell the apartments.
And afterwards, you know, when the building was completed, you know, the pride I could see in the guys, you know, and they must have thought, and you know, I must have thought that this is something really that was workable and so on.
In the space of about 4 months, we sold 200 apartments. It was very stressful, but very rewarding, and it put Claremont on the map in terms of a sort of urban residential area, and other developments followed as a result. What I would envisage going forward is that we pool the monies of our investor base into, call it an Annenberg property investment fund, which will enable us to play in the market where individuals cannot afford to play. And in that way, we can also satisfy our investors who are frustrated in the fact that they cannot find, let's say, a 10 million rand property here or a 15 million rand property there. That is what I would like to ultimately bring to the table for our clients.